because the guys in the booth are trying to communicate that what they saw, because the guys in the booth can obviously see the game better. The guys on the field can feel the game better. So I think it just kind of puts people all on the same page, and I think you can make corrections a lot faster.
Was it something where you wondered, why couldn't we do this in the past? Or what was
Yeah, you wondered it because they showed the replay in the stadium, but they wouldn't let you have the replay on the sideline. So, it's progress. We're all you can't fight it. We're all moving in different directions. At some point in time, they may actually have videos in their helmets. I don't know, but just whatever the rules are, we're going to adapt to them. So.
Tim May, front row right, Letterman roll.
I like a teabag line. I asked Ryan this. I wanted to ask you two quickies. Number one, how important is it to somehow or another, based on what you saw Saturday, Quinn Ewers leaving the game, Wisconsin losing a starting quarterback, to have a competent backup that you feel real good about, and how do you generate that? And then number two, do you feel much better about your offensive line today than you did 2 weeks ago from the standpoint of how it played in your last game and progress, et cetera?
Two drastically different questions right there. So,
I think
will it? Yeah, because they're both on offense, but that's about the only thing I can fish those two together with. The quarterback spot, obviously you want to develop depth, and you do look around the country and who's lost their quarterbacks or a guy goes down for a time. But the other part of that is, it's not like Will's been here for 5 years. Will's played football for 5 years, so he needs as many reps as he can in Ohio State's offense. So you're in that fine line of how many reps do we get Will of live game speed in a stadium where it's real. It's the toughest position to play because you can't practice it the way you play it. What I mean by that, and I don't care at what level it is, quarterbacks don't get hit in practice, but quarterbacks get hit in games. So it's a different game for a quarterback when it's live. So to try to balance how many reps does Will need to continue to get better and continue to grow is, we finish our last out-of-conference game here against Marshall and then head into conference play. Do we feel like he's got enough under his belt so that when those situations come up in a game that he's experienced it already as an Ohio State player? I know he has as a Kansas State player, but not. But you also need to develop your quarterbacks because, we always say you're a chin strap away from playing. If you get your helmet knocked off on the field of play, you're out for at least one play, so someone's got to go in the game. So that's a fine line, and you always have to continue to try to walk it. But we hope that, I think Devin and Julian did a nice job when they were in. Lincoln got 3 snaps, but it was really late in the game, and that was more handoffs than anything else. But, we'll see how that continues to go. But you do have to have 2 quarterbacks, and, especially when you're going to play such a long season. If you're going to play a 16, 17-game season, at some point in time, one of those guys is going to be called upon during a critical time, and you hope that they got enough reps under their belt that they feel comfortable when they go in there. And then, he may have 3 or 4 more after us, but the offensive line, I think they made pretty good strides from game 1 to game 2, more from a communication standpoint of being on the same page. And now adding Donnie back this week, I think, adds a little bit more depth to that position because Austin played really well himself. So I think Austin took full advantage of the reps that he got in the 2 games that he was in there. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. But I was really impressed with how they went from game 1 to game 2.
Thanks, man. Andy Anders, Lemon Warriors.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stood out watching the offense just pre-snap is the motion and the different window dressings you guys do in formations. Just what is the importance of that from your perspective in using pre-snap motion?
Yeah, I think pre-snap motions are 2 things. Number one, to gain an advantage numerically against the defense. So if you move and they're not moving, you gain 1 hat from one side to the other side. And then number 2, to discern what they're in. So it helps the quarterback from an understanding standpoint. Now, I think all of our motions and shifts have a reason to them. It's just not, hey, let's just do this for this play because it looks cool. So the quarterback knows what he's looking for and what indicators he should get when we do it. So it gives him some information, but also at times you're trying to gain a numeric advantage from one side or the other. So if they lined up over here and we bring an extra guy over, if they don't bring an extra guy over, now we have an extra guy into the boundary. So we're trying to work the advantages from a number standpoint with motions and shifts, but also discern some information about what they're going to do, especially teams that are really good at disguising.
Right behind him, Tony Goodman, Buckeye Huddle.
Last week being the improvement week, what was the focus with you and Will on what you needed to work on?
Yeah, it was different for each player, so we graded every player during the week. Each player had a different set of things that they had to work on. Will, there were some real technical things from a fundamental standpoint that as we continued to drill and play action pass and demeanor and what his fundamental footwork is going to be on those plays, some of it was just recognizing pre-snap indicators of, where is the free safety and is he discerning, can you discern from where his alignment is what the coverage is going to be pre-snap before we get to post-snap situations. So Will continues to grow every day. That's one thing I love about him. He's a lifelong learner. He comes in here every day really hungry about how do I get a little bit better every day. And I think last week he did improve from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in training sessions.
Right next door, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
I'm sure you were at least aware of Quinchon before you got here and started working with him, but maybe where has he surprised you as a running back, and what have you learned about him? I know it's still early on.
Yeah, I had just really watched highlights of him, in terms of what he did at Ole Miss. But how well he sees the field for someone his size. Usually, guys that big are a little bit more of a batting ram type player. Although he has those qualities, he's a tough, physical, hard-nosed guy that will square up a linebacker in a hole and pick him up in pass protection. But he's got great feet and vision for someone his size, and it's really surprising sometimes when you see how he works his way through a hole or what doesn't look like a hole, but he can work himself through it because of his vision and his footwork. And I think putting that on somebody that size, a 220-pound plus running back, is kind of a rare commodity. Usually that's a little bit smaller guy, but he has those qualities. But he's also got a real tough physicalness to him that he can really, if you have to, and there isn't a hole there, he can create a hole himself. So.
Fourth row right, Andrew Backstrom, Letterman row.
Yeah, Chip, we saw some 3 tight end sets, 4 tight end set. How is that depth of that tight end room allowing you more flexibility on offense right now?
It has, and I think it's a credit to those guys in that all playing time here is earned. So, when you say, hey, we're going to run 3 tight end formations, it's not, well, whatever 3 tight ends are there. That conversation comes up in staff meetings because we really believe in those guys and so what they can do. So I think, G's played a lot of football here. Jelani played a little bit last year. I saw him on town. Will played at Ohio. I think Bennett's done a really nice job himself. So the 4 of those guys have really earned it, and I think we'll continue to work through some of those packages and see what's the best fit for those guys.
Right next door, Andrew Gillis, Cleveland.com.
Chip, what has Seth McLaughlin brought you guys to the first 2 games, and how valuable is it to have a guy who's played that much football at center?
Yeah, hey, that's a great point. I think really stability. Kind of he's been there, done that. He learned very quickly. It really